Karateka.
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 Karateka?
Karateka.
Karateka.
Karateka, and if it's Karateka, I've never heard that before. So maybe Jordan says it that way, I don't know. But I know we all said Karateka at the company.
I think when I was a kid, I always said Karateka, because it's like you say karate and you just add the ka.
Let's talk about pronunciation. So here's the thing, in the 80s, TV didn't talk about games and we didn't have the internet, so pretty much everybody pronounced the title of the game in their own way. A lot of people say karateka or karateka. In Japanese, there's no stress on any syllable, so it would be karateka, something like that. I called it karateka, but I've since found out that pretty much everybody pronounced it differently. So however you pronounce it is fine. Don't feel bad. It's all good.
I first saw the game while in the high school at the computer lab in 1984, while taking AP Computer Science in the 11th grade at Mount Carmel High School in San Diego. I think I saw someone else playing it and said, "Oh, that looks awesome." So then I started. There was a much bigger story element compared to typical arcade games at the time. The most difficult, frustrating part was at the end, trying to get past the princess, because every time I got close to the princess, I'll get knocked out. So it took me many tries to figure out what to do. The name Karateka Wrath of Dude actually came from the Star Trek movie Wrath of Khan, and basically it was a story about how to get even with the princess that knocks me out at the end of the game. At about the same time, I was lucky enough to have my parents get an Apple IIe, and then later I got a software package called Take One, sprite animation kit. The project, the full animation itself took about 6 months in the first full version. At the beginning, I started doing some simple things, and then I noticed that it had a lot of potential, so I just redid the whole game in my image. What I've done originally was I made sort of a fast-moving slideshow from all the screen captures, and that was called Karateka the Motion Picture. Then later, after I got this Take One toolkit, I've edited all of my screenshots to cut the sprites out that I wanted. And then that was the beginning of Karateka 2, right? Using sprite animation instead of a slideshow. Most of the animations were done from the screenshots, but I made some of them myself. The more fancy animations like the rotating kits, the boomerang, and the rope, for example. In the opening scene, you might have seen sort of having like a temple with cherry trees. That's a background I made from trying to copy from an old calendar. I wasn't really inspired by fan work, but I did watch a lot of low-budget kung fu movies at the time. And there was also an arcade game called Double Dragon, which had some very brutal moves that gave me some inspiration. And the AP Computer Science in the 11th grade, I submitted that as a final assignment, even though it was supposed to be a programming assignment, but the instructor somehow didn't notice I wasn't doing any real programming. And then later, at a community college, I've submitted that as an assignment also, but instead of as a programming assignment, it was recorded with a video capture. Especially at the 11th grade, all of the classmates were just cracking up, especially after the awesome original version ending. However, my parents were not as impressed. People started asking for copies. However, in around 1993, I was studying undergraduate computer science at the University of Maryland, on the other side of the country. And an acquaintance there heard my full name was Eric Newman, and he was surprised that he couldn't believe he was talking to the guy that made Karateka 2. So the copies of copies went all the way across the country. And this was the guy, I think, used the copy and then later uploaded the disk image to the internet, which is the version most people see today. I'm just overwhelmed. It was just a small thing I did in the mid '80s. So I'm just flattered and overwhelmed. I never realized it was this popular.
So I met Jordan, it's probably like 1984, it must have been. So I had moved up from Southern California to Northern California. Doug Carlston, the CEO of Broderbund, invited me up. I think originally I was living at his house. And then I ended up, Jordan was visiting from college and I met him and we hit it off. We're very different, right? He's from just outside of New York City. His dad is this sort of, European intellectual. My family is very much Californian, so it was kind of this mix. And I had this sort of exotic blonde. It was kind of opposites attract, kind of inseparable for a while. And he good friends, and then I was free, and then they needed conversions. So the Commodore 64 was kind of a hot computer at that point. And the Atari was a little bit older and maybe not quite as popular, but it still was a viable platform. And a conversion, particularly from Apple to the Commodore 64 and Atari, they had the same microprocessor, or roughly the same, but they ran the same code. And so the ports didn't take that long to do. So in some ways, it's a very satisfying, very quick thing to do, except then you had to deal with the new graphics and you had to make it work better for those platforms. I think the most difficult things about porting Karateka, one was Jordan was very exacting. So that probably would be, and because the game in some ways is very ambitious. So there's a lot of assets and you had to keep motion smooth a certain way and the interactions had to be very responsive. I think actually the Commodore 64 itself was a real chore because the Commodore 64 wasn't as refined, it was much more complex in terms of what it could do than an Apple II. And that had been the previously most complex computer I'd ever worked with. And it wasn't quite as refined as the Atari in terms of how the hardware would function. And so I found very often it would do things that were not totally predictable. And a lot of people had frustration with it. I think part of it is because the engineering of the Commodore 64 wasn't worked on, is because it was so incredibly popular. But that was on the Apple, you had two different buttons, so you could do punch and kick separately. On the Commodore 64, a short press to do a punch and a long press ultimately would have to pass meg into a round hole. You would translate a book, literal. The music was very much into music and the cinematic quality accomplished, and you had to kind of simulate through square wave. It was the same over the place on it. He of notes. Ran slow as the Apple Atari hardware worked a certain after the Commodore 64 port problem. The Commodore. Because Karateka changed the graphics for basic like Big Hat, and then when I probably ran smoother. So things were rendering on the fluid like in the particular. And I don't know, there's been many years fluid as a teenager at the time. I feel a lot of pride. The course of changed my relationship with Jordan and how I think about crafting things changed dramatically as well.
was pretty hard. Started out, you got to master kind of the upper hit, the low. Good at that. Have to play the game on actively impact.
He just sends his eagle, hawk, falcon, whatever, like and keep
trying to time it. Well, it was difficult at first, but games back then, I was an arcade rat, so I was used to, you try something, it doesn't work, you die, you start over, you try again, try something different. And Karateka was, more of that.
It was a very memorable sense of progress. Like, you send the bird, okay, I'll get your...
But back then it really was. Here's when you're going to get attacked by an enemy.
You got to crush your skull a lot.
Today, out of games, enemies likely to kill punitive, right? I mean, like Karope.
Of games of that pair, you kind of feel, with Karate, this is an arcade game. There's not a whole lot of place to tell stories, so we better these things up so that the player has...
felt game and the cinematic
feeling. It wasn't it's tree
of use or a technique facing that like cinema simple thing.
Your move slam right in. I'm gonna want enough. So important. Really had to
of the entire
or not because you wanted to be able.
And there's a
got close and wham, she killed us because she thought we were one of the villains.
As frustrating as that was for me the first time I got kicked in the face by her, the chance to kind of do it all over again and figure out, okay, what did I do wrong?
If you come in a non-aggressive way, it's very different.
So you have to play the whole thing again and then walk up to her. And then she's cool, thanks for saving me and all that stuff. But the moment of shock on my face when I was just taken out with one hit is like, whoosh, it's like, what?
Today we'd call it a cutscene, but it's a seamless one. You were in control, and then suddenly the game takes over, and you're not in control, and it's perfectly seamless. If anything, my one regret with the game was always that I wanted there to be a little bit more right after that final hug. It goes pretty quickly sort of into rolling the end. And I always wish there were...
As far as, how much of them and in the game, all those were, everything I needed to love experiences that made me want to make, an act in games. Just
honest, I was a senior in college. It was my senior year. For the first few months, so well, and that was because months before, very slowly thinking, well, it's good. I'm proud of it, but then slow billboard, and it was efforts before Persia.
It's easy to care about story now because everyone has to, right? Story is. Jordan predates all together. I think he was
with other people and wanted to have creation of talent. Obvious now that's where all now learn how to.
I think that's one of the when you look at like that. Look across whether it's what orient our way of as he is right. He's coming at other discipline. Just the fact that he thought that isn't the most tools and couldn't.
Beginning of the game, I didn't know who Jordan Mechner was, but I wanted to be like Jordan Mechner. It's like I want to make a game. I have stories to tell,
This time, 1980, 81, 82.
Of computer, even though
there was the model. The ideas was like stuck out.
I wasn't thinking of it as a business thing. Pursuing.
You're going to see the very vibrant, far beyond what elements, not just because of the emotion. It was about the first game I had ever
have really right like text, but they weren't what seamless. The
Karateka cinematic experiences that's ever dual, most and one of every second in every pixel.
I think they've gotten
Amazing.
Okay, I think they've gotten